Hi, I'm Brittany Pacheco. Wow, I can't talk.
What's up, Frank Cooper?
And we are the Watchers in the Basement. Welcome to our channel, The Watchers in the Basement. And welcome back. If you've been here before, welcome. If you are new, consider subscribing. If you enjoy all things podcasts, when we talk a lot about Marvel Cinematic Universe, Anne Rice's universe of just awesomeness, and plenty of other topics here on our channel. So be sure to consider subscribing down below. We are on the road to 500 subscribers, so help make that happen. Today, Frank and I bring you something very near and dear to our hearts, I think, and that involves the Anne Rice universe. We've already been here before speaking on Interview with a Vampire, which is phenomenal. But today we are talking about the next installment from Anne Rice's universe, Talamasca, The Secret Order. Frank, before we really dive into it, tell us, what is your experience with the Talamasca and what are your overall thoughts on this season?
So overall, going into the season, I was very excited. Just watching last season of Interview with the Vampire, and I had watched season 2 recently, probably about 3 weeks ago, and I was just like super excited, like in season 2 of the Talamasca and like their involvement of like this shield like you know espionage group or order that kind of just supervises everything. But the majority of them are like mortal. They're not supernatural. At least most of them aren't. They have some supernatural elements and people who work for them. But I just going back from season 2, I always wondered, how does an organization who is majority mortals have this type of like supervision and control and influence over immortals and supernatural elements? Um, and that's what had me excited watching the show, because I wanted to see how it was done. What do these entities have on the supernaturals, whether it's werewolves, vampires, witches, whatever? What do you have on these supernatural elements that puts fear in their eyes or instills fear or concern from the supernatural mindset and perspective? That's what had me so excited about this show. And when you watch the show, it's kind of more of the same. Like there's a healthy respect slash fear of this secret order, that's ran by a lot of powerful individuals, people with money and influence and all of that. But again, humans, and you see more of the same in this series of like, well, there's vampires or witches or these people who are elite when it comes to their power, when it comes to their influence, have a healthy fear of of this group that's been around for seem like since the dawn of time, damn near.
Yeah, for sure, definitely. And you raise a lot of great questions as to how is it that the Talamasca, presumably mortals, most of the majority of them are mortals, why do they instill fear in these immortals or supernatural beings? And it's a question that I think we will hopefully get answers to in the coming seasons. I need to kind of just fill in some blanks here. So this is actually the third installment in Anne Rice's universe of, uh, if you will, the immortal universe. It's a shared universe of her novels. Now, Anne Rice did pass away some years back, but she's still credited as an executive producer along with her son, I believe, on this show. So Interview with the Vampire came out in 2022. And also, Mayfair Witches is another, or rather, The Lives of the Mayfair Witches is another show that is associated with the Anne Rice universe. Now, this show dropped October 19th, 2025. It's about 6 episodes. We thought it was going to be more because it leaves you wanting more, that's for sure. But let's kind of get down to the nitty gritty about what the Talamasca is and go from there. So it was created by John Lee Hancock. And once again, it's also based on the Vampire Chronicles and the Lives of the Mayfair Witches, once again, written by the wonderful late Anne Rice. If I'm not mistaken, Frank, it Talamasca was actually first introduced in the 1988 book, Queen of the Damned. And the Talamasca is said to have formed in 758 by people's names I can't pronounce, and I'm not going to butcher it, but it operates worldwide. And from the offices that we heard from this show, the main office is in Amsterdam. There's also a London office. There's also a New York office, amongst many others. But the focuses of the offices, are known as the mother houses, are New York, London, and Amsterdam. So let's just dive on into it. We're not going to like break it down episode by episode. It's just kind of the overall story that we're going to speak on. So there is a young man by the name of Guy Anatole. Probably butchering that name. Can't remember what he said.
Yeah, I
But
think it's Anatole. Yeah.
Anatole. He's played by Nicholas Denton. And for me personally, and I want to like weigh in, I want to get other people's opinion about this. The actor looks exactly like Eddie Redmayne, in my personal opinion. You see it too, Frank, right? Like Eddie Redmayne,
I do.
doppelganger, like total doppelganger, right? I was like, wait a second, I didn't know Eddie was going to be in this show, but sadly, it's not Eddie. He's a great actor though. But Nicholas is Guy Anatole. We also have Celine Buckens, who plays Doris. Maisie Richardson-Sellers as Olive. She is a Talamasca agent and Guy's handler. We'll talk about that in a moment. William Fichtner as Jasper, who, spoiler, is a vampire who controls Talamasca's London mother house. And we'll once again talk about that in a moment. Lastly, Elizabeth McGovern, who I know as Lady Crawley from Downton Abbey. She plays Helen, who is the leader of Talamasca's New York mother house. Frank, from the first episode, like there's a lot happening here. We're learning about Guy has some sort of like psychic ability that he uses to his advantage to gain a really prestigious job at a law firm. Thoughts?
Yeah. I feel like I would if I had my reading capabilities, I would be like the best world renowned like mind reader. Like I will be on
Yeah, you
Oprah
would.
Winfrey's show. Like, I will be like on I will be on so many shows. But I mean, I guess I mean the show does a good job of like really showing like the on brand personality style of Guy. He doesn't come off as a guy who doesn't come off as a guy. Doesn't come off as a person that like wants attention or that wants to glitz to the glamour of fame and notoriety. He comes off more as somebody who is more behind the scenes, is like attention, who just wants to live in as normal life as possible, even though he has this supernatural ability to read minds at any given point in time. And I know I know he's in a job, maybe he would be a lawyer. I wasn't sure what kind of lawyer. I don't know if it was an environmental lawyer or whatever, but like it looks like he wants to make a healthy living for himself and kind of just be under wraps. And you can tell, like in that scene, you can tell that he's not really a boisterous person because even selling himself in the interview initially, he's not really high confidence. He's not really putting his best foot forward, and it took. And you can tell, like he didn't really want to use his powers until
Yeah.
that final handshake. And as he's being ushered off, like kind of giving them, unofficial tone of like he's not gonna get the job. He then hones in on one of the interviewers' minds thoughts by saying, "Hey, do something that make you stand out," and that's what he did. What he did.
Yeah.
But he's very unassuming. He's very much himself. Probably a type B personality. So I thought that scene really set the tone for who Guy Anatole is. And not just set the tone, but like also give room. Sorry, it's starting to rain over here.
Oh
It's
no.
starting to give room to like his growth as a character as the season goes on.
Yeah, because for Guy, he went to NYU. He is, I mean, he passed the bar, right? So he's very intelligent, knows his stuff, but he has a story, right? His story seems extremely sad, where his mother died, overdosed rather, on drugs when he was a child. His father walked out on him as well. So he has like a very sad beginning of life, if you will, right? But he went to foster care. He was able to, get into NYU, as I said, and then become a lawyer. He has like this job after tapping into the minds of those he was interviewing with and putting his best foot forward, like you said, and securing that job. But he fights with that ability because obviously this is not something he wants, maybe he tolerates. It seems to cause him great pain, I guess, because he's fighting it, right? But there's something obviously very special about him, and that's gaining the attention of Elizabeth McGovern's character, whose name is Helen, quote unquote, right? Frank, when we first met Helen and she's trying to recruit Guy to take part in the Talamasca, right? Like she's got some really uncanny ability to keep track of him, but he in turn is very perceptive. He is also watching her at the same time, right? So when you first meet Helen and she's trying to recruit him into the Talamasca, which, by the way, in case you guys were wondering what the word Talamasca means, it's a fictional secret society, first and foremost, of psychic detectives. And they research, monitor, and conceal paranormal phenomena like vampires and witches. The name is a Latin word that means animal mask, which it's kind of curious to choose that word, but I'm sure Anne Rice had a reason behind it. But anyway, back to Helen. What were your first impressions of Helen?
Distrustful. I mean, I don't like when a secret agent shows up at your front door, shows up to you trying to present you something. Oftentimes, it's not an even exchange. Like a lot of times, it's we need your skill set, and yes, it's dangerous, and yes, you could die. But what I'm giving you is hopefully a bargaining tool for you to take the bait. And in the beginning of the episode, you see a Talamasca agent, get killed in action trying to, retrieve something. But
Brutal.
yeah,
Brutal.
the worst way you can possibly go, right? But when I first saw her, I didn't trust her. I still don't trust her even now. I just feel like for an organization that's been around for as long as they've been around, since what, over 1,000 years. So you said what,
750,
80?
750,
Okay,
80.
so you talking about a secret order that's been around for that long. I'm assuming they've done things to keep themselves under wraps. They've done a lot of distrustful things, a lot of under the table things to stay relevant, to stay in the shadows. So with somebody of that ilk who comes from that kind of order, they're not. I don't think you're supposed to trust them. They are doing what's best for the Talamasca, not what's best for you as a guy or any agent that's coming into the fold.
And I think in this case, we can maybe make the exception for Helen because she's not doing necessarily what's best for the Talamasca. Helen has her own story, right? She has her own agenda and needs Guy and his abilities to further that agenda, right? She has a mission of her own that's off the books. Guy ultimately is off the books, right? No one in the Talamasca is supposed to know about him and this mission and what have you. Because what we end up finding out is that I say main character. So like Guy is like a main character. Obviously, he's got a story that we'll see play out throughout this whole thing, as well as Helen. And then one other character by the name of Jasper, who is played by William Fichtner. Jasper, who is a vampire who has kind of overridden the London Mother House. And his mission is to locate what he thinks is a book called 752 to ultimately take down the Talamasca. So, what is Guy and Helen's story? Well, Guy eventually finds out from Daniel Malloy. He makes a quick cameo here in this show. If y'all are familiar with the Interview with the Vampire, Daniel Malloy is the interviewer in that whole scenario. At the end of season, was it 1 or 2? Can't remember. Frank, when he becomes a vampire himself.
Two.
The end of season 2. Yes, he has changed into a vampire, writes the book that is published, and now the whole world knows about vampires, right? And I want to sidebar real quick, Frank, because we talked about this earlier today about how now that that book is published and it's perceived that vampires exist, you posed a really interesting question. What was that question? So we can put it out there in the world.
Yeah, my question was, since this season of Talamasca takes place right after the events of season 2 of Interview with the Vampire, in present day, we now know, thanks to Malloy's book, that vampires are out there, vampires are a thing. And you see Louis in the end of season 2 of Interview with the Vampire saying, hey, he's using his mind reading ability
Telepathy.
to, like, yeah, it's telepathy. I can answer that word.
Telepathy.
Telepathy.
Go ahead.
Sure. Around the world, he's hearing all these vampires' voices about them being upset that their secret is out, that they now that they can't really live in the shadows, that they've been outed. And Louis is pretty much saying, "Come get me, motherfucker! I'm Abu Dhabi. Here, come get me. What's up?" my question is, now that we're in season 1 Talamasca, why wasn't it referenced by the other vampires in the show that their secret is out, that people know that vampires exist? Mm-hmm. You know, I thought that was kind of weird, because that was something like a very big thing, not just in the vampire community, but the supernatural community in general, with witches and werewolves and, you know, all these different entities. You would think that would be like a cause for concern, not just the vampire, but if you're a witch and you're operating in the shadows, like, oh shit, the vampires got outed, are we next? You know what I'm saying? Like, yeah. I thought the show could have done a better job as far as like answering that question, like how the world sees the supernatural aspect now. And what's crazy to me too, I guess in a way, in a minute way, it answered the question in episode 2, when Helen takes Guy to see, I can't remember the vampire's name that lives in the penthouse in London, but before they walk in, he's like, Guy says, I don't believe in vampire witches and werewolves or whatever, or vampires and witches or whatever. And Helen's like, nobody believes in that until they believe in it, until they see it. Yeah. So in a way, like, I guess it's still folklore in this world, and not really like something that's proven. Right. But I kind of wish I just would have saw more of that. Like, what do we do now that our secret is out, or now that this Malloy guy has written a book about us? Because Malloy's out here just running around like, come on, this book. So clearly he doesn't feel like his life is in danger. He's at book signings, signing books and talking about, you know, his exploits in the book and shit. Like, he doesn't look like he's in fear of his life.
All excellent points. And so my response to Frank's question, because again, we discussed this earlier in the day, my response was one of two things. Either the audience reading this book views this as fiction. It's not nonfiction, right? It's just a wonderful story that Daniel Malloy wrote because he is a writer, and it's just something that people are not taking seriously, right? Because of that same mentality that Guy exhibits of, I don't believe in vampires. I don't believe in the supernatural. I don't believe in any of of these things, which is fair because a lot of people are of the opinion seeing is believing. And that's fine. That's fair. The other side of that coin is I liken it to the Marvel universe, where in that universe, wizards, aliens, mutants, enhanced beings all exist in the world amongst humans, and it's just accepted, right? So we're not sure exactly if the audience is viewing Daniel's book as fiction, or it's just, all right, cool, vampires exist, sign my book. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't know. Here in the chat, we've got Escape the Art Matrix saying, I was waiting for them to bring that up. It's like a separate story in some parts. And I think you're right. It's something that I don't think is the sole focus of this particular show. even though it is entitled Talamasca, who are a secret society who observe and monitor these supernatural beings, but there's a bigger plot at play, right? And it's just kind of like, we're just going to say these beings exist and move on. You know what I'm saying? I don't know, but that was just my 2 cents.
Yeah, I don't know. I just feel like if you're a secret society who is monitoring supernatural threats, as a secret society, you wouldn't want that threat to be known to the world. So if you're Talamasca, what Malloy, I'm surprised they haven't shut up Malloy. Like that's to me that would be a big thing. Like in season 2 of Interview with the Vampire, I don't want to keep going back to season 2, but like they're in there, and the guy who's in this particular series, one of the agents, he's telling Malloy about Louis and and how Louis is dangerous and all that. Mm-hmm. But again, like he's saying it from the standpoint of like be careful, this guy's powerful. But like I don't think they want that known. You don't want that common knowledge to be known across the world that there are very powerful beings. Because like if it's known across the world, then what is, as Talamasca, what is your job? What is your purpose at this point then?
Right.
So
that's true. I'm gonna liken it to S.H.I.E.L.D., and I'll make my point later on in the episode. But to get back to, as I said, the different agendas for each character, with Guy, when he meets Helen, or kind of in the midst of all this, he encounters Daniel Malloy, meets him at the book signing, and sees a page that I think speaks on the victims of like Louis and Lestat's, crimes, if you will. I think probably more so Lestat. I don't remember the specifics. Don't come at me, people. But Guy sees a name that he recognizes as his mother's name. Now, let's keep in mind, he believes that his mother died of an overdose. Now, there's a name, her name, in this book that indicates that she was a victim or somehow affiliated with like Louis Lestat and Lestat, right? And so when Guy meets Daniel in a darkened alleyway at night, by the way, like that's totally safe, especially when you're coming across a vampire, it's revealed to Guy that his mother is alive. And so now Guy, who was very hesitant about joining the Talamasca because he just doesn't believe in any of this hokum, now he's got motivation to join Talamasca, but for his own personal reasons, right? And so he agrees. Helen, of course, is going to be thrilled about that because she has her own agenda, and takes him, like Frank has already mentioned, to go meet a vampire who's played by Jason Schwartzman, y'all. And I was just floored when I saw him. I remember texting you, Frank, when that scene played out. And I'm like, are you effing kidding me? They got Jason Schwartzman to play a fucking vampire whose name is Burton in the show. But he surprisingly works with the Talamasca. I guess you could say that. I won't say for the Talamasca, but he works with the Talamasca. And also, I think you posed the question, Frank, what does the Talamasca have on this old ass vampire to make him work with them? Like, seriously, thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, it's because I think he said he's about 300 years old, if I remember correctly. Like, yeah. Burton's old. He's ancient, right? Yeah. So like, it does make you wonder, because even when he's talking to Guy, he is telling him like, do you trust Talamasca? Do you trust what they do? Do you trust what they are? Like, as he's actively working with the Talamasca. So it's like, I don't know. Like, I don't know if it's gotten to a point where like vampires are damn near extinct, because again, we don't get a clear number as far as the vampire population. We get the term that keeps coming up throughout the series from Jasper and other people is, how many vampires are there? Not enough. Not enough. Yeah. Not enough. Yeah. So maybe in season 2, do we get like a prequel scene of like some type of like catastrophic disaster that took out a lot of vampires? Was a manhunt that happened you know, under the Talamasca's eye or Talamasca's
Mm-hmm.
direction to take out a lot of powerful vampires.
Yeah.
I don't know, but there aren't too many guys the age of Burton and Lestat walking around in this
Mm-hmm.
age at this point.
Yeah.
So it does make you wonder. We do know that Akasha's coming. I mean, based on like the casting news of season
Yeah.
3 of Interview with the Vampire, Akasha, she's probably the vampire, the mother of all vampires. So she's possibly still around, is around.
Mm-hmm.
So it makes you wonder, like, what happened behind the scenes or off camera that has caused the decrease in population of all these vampires. Whatever
Mm-hmm.
it is, it has these vampires in fear.
Yes.
And so I guess we'll find out come next season.
Fingers crossed that that will be the case. So, surprisingly, though, with Burton, the vampire, he warns Guy to basically tread lightly with the Talamasca. They're not going to back him up. They're going to use him until he dies, most likely, right? And it's a chance that Guy is going to take because he wants to find his mother. There's like photo proof that she was seen in London. You know, obviously, we don't have like a timestamp as to when that was taken, I don't believe, but he has motivation to go to London to go do Helen's bidding. Fast forward from New York to London. Guy is meant to kind of just be trained, right? And so enter Olive, who is part of the Talamasca. She's Guy's handler. She kind of makes sure that he gets like the quote unquote messages by way of like a X tape on like a phone booth or something. He goes and finds a device that has a message. And this is just basically how Talamasca operates, right? It's very secretive and very, low key in that respect. But for Helen, we start learning about her story. Helen, who uh, is very selective about what she tells Guy, obviously, but we come to learn that Helen has or had a sister. You know, we see flashbacks of them growing up at what basically was a Talamasca school, right? And eventually they were separated. The sister went on to go do things. Helen never found her ever again, never heard from her ever again. And she's just determined to find what ultimately is the same artifact that Jasper is looking for, like the 752. You know, 752 uh, is basically, for lack of a better word, a library of the history of all the supernatural information that has been collected for thousands of years, right? Since the Talamasca has been formed. And we'll see flashes of like from the 1960s and 1980s and just different time periods that help shape the story. But you see that there was a massive fire of the Talamasca Library in Frank, it was Amsterdam, I believe, because Amsterdam's kind of like the
Yeah.
main house. And so the 752 is believed to be the artifact that holds all of that information that was lost, right? And so some believe it's a book. We eventually find out differently. But the book is going to be used for different reasons. Helen wants to use the book to locate her sister. Jasper wants to locate the book, whether it's to find other vampires or it's just to consume information to take down the Talamasca. I'm not sure if that was clearly defined. Frank, was that clearly defined in your opinion?
No, you talking about for Heather? You talking about
Jasper.
for Jasper?
Yeah.
I from my understanding, I think Jasper wanted to strengthen the vampire population,
Mm,
and I don't know if to find keys on how to do it. I mean, he knows how to make vampires,
yeah.
but I think it was to create, because like he mentioned some of the guy in the series about like the time the vampire not being feared and a vampire um becoming a thing of the past, and I think
Hmm.
he wants the vampire to be back in the forefront, the top of humanity.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's why he's making all these hybrid remnant vampires, and
Yeah.
he wants the dominant vampire to be back in the fold. Is what I got from it. Yeah.
But
So
speak on Jasper, because we haven't really touched on him and his background. We actually rewatched the clip this morning about the story, and basically that I would say is the driving force of Jasper and why he's doing what he's doing.
yeah. So Jasper tells Guy that back in the day, around 1200, a vampire who was part of a covenant was drinking chicken blood. And at the time was a very taboo thing, was very wrong to do because you kind of find against your nature to feed on humans. So he had been doing this for X amount of time. Another vampire in the covenant found out about it. I think his name was Margul. He found out that this vampire was drinking chicken blood. He tells the Talamasca and he tells his covenant what's going on.
Mm-hmm.
And this guy gets casted out of his covenant. So this guy
Coven.
Huh?
Coven, not covenant.
Coven?
Coven.
Coven.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Coven. I think I did that before in
It's
Vampire
okay.
as well.
You
So
good.
he gets casted out of his coven, and for decades, I mean, centuries, he's just alone. And one fateful day in 1920s, in the 1920s, he goes back. He wants to find out who snitched on him, pretty much.
Mm-hmm.
And when he finds out the vampire, he finds out he gets information, second information. He goes to South America, to Bolivia, where Margul's coven's at. And he goes there and he slaughters everybody in the coven. He slaughters everybody, mama, children, whoever's in the coven that night was gone, was taken care of, including Margul. And
17 people gone.
Yeah, 17 people, just like that. And how Jasper's connected is that we find out that was Jasper's coven. Jasper wasn't there that night, but when he gets back from doing what he was doing, he sees the murder scene, the mass murder scene of all his people gone. And it put Jasper into a mental tizzy, and he walks from Bolivia to Texas. So he's walking through Central America and he gets to Texas eventually. Shout out Texas. And so it's pretty much and I don't know, and we don't know if this vampire's alive that did all this murdering. And maybe that's what it is. Maybe he's trying to get back the guy who did that. I don't know. But he does reference this guy, this vampire killing his coven. And that's where we're at now.
Yeah, and if y'all are wondering how it is that Guy and Jasper come into conversation, it's because Helen puts Guy on this mission to tail Jasper and to, get closer and learn about, what he's doing, because the fact that Jasper has taken over the London mother house and is watching everything. The people who work for the Talamasca are basically working for Jasper. And the crazy thing in all of this is that Talamasca is aware of everything. They just have not stepped in to do anything about it. And it's curious as to why that's their play, because on one side, these are mortals, but these are enhanced mortals, if you will. They have psychic abilities, they have training and what have you. Vampires are violent, or at least this set of vampires are very violent, right? Frank mentioned it before. Jasper is breeding like this hybrid sort of vampire that really respond to him, which is, normal, I guess, because vampires will respond to their maker, right? They feel a sense of connection to their maker. But these vampires are not like your Louis or your Lestat or even Jasper, for that matter. These are vicious, okay? And they're the ones who took down the Talamasca agent at the beginning of this whole season, where she's trying to hide what ends up being a USB drive and information from the Talamasca. And she sacrifices herself. She steps in front of a moving train, but I think she's still ripped apart by these really vicious vampires, right? So, and we'll see them again. Obviously, they take out other vampires who run like this hotel. But for Guy to encounter Jasper and learn his story, he kind of just like uh, comes clean to Jasper and says, "Listen, I'm here for I work for the Talamasca, but I don't really trust them. I'm here for my own reasons. Like I'm trying to find my mom, and they want me to get closer to you. They want me to, tail you, find out what you're doing, this and that, what have you." And Jasper's kind of like, "All right, let me tell you the story about me." That was kind of like a weird interaction, I think, but it now Guy is kind of like playing like he's working for both, right? Talamasca as well as Jasper. But then also there's another group of people that we haven't really touched on yet, and that are witches. Witches are here in London. Guy, upon arriving to London, he meets a young woman named Kev, yeah, Kev's something like that. She was
Is
very
it
friendly
Echo
to him.
Keeves?
Keeves,
Is it Kevs? I don't know.
Kev's, I don't know. Interesting name.
Keves. Yeah.
Yeah, it was an interesting name altogether. It was typical like boy meets girl. They bat their eyelashes at one another. She
Or is
gives
it Kevin?
him
I think it's Kevis.
Kevis, thank you.
Kevis,
Good
yeah.
lord. Kevis. She gives him her number, says, "I'm gonna be at this club tonight. You should come out." He does. They make out on the dance floor, but then enter Olive. This is the first time we see Olive, Guy, what will be Guy's handler. She also like is watching him, keeping tabs. Well, Guy goes home with Kevis. They have fun in the sack, you know. Next
Yeah,
thing
he
you know,
does.
yeah, he does. Oh my goodness. And she was funny. She's like, "I'm breaking all the rules." It was so funny. I guess witches like aren't supposed to hook up with mortals. Like, I don't.
I don't know, man. Which pussy sounds fun though?
Oh my god. Here we go.
That sounds pleasant.
Oh Jesus Christ. Oh, but anyway, next thing we know, eventually Kevis is murdered, right? She's murdered by someone who was tracking her, who worked with Jasper. There's a lot happening here, y'all. I mean, the season I feel personally was kind of a slow burn because obviously you're building story, you're developing character arcs. But then when it takes off, it kind of takes off. I'm not going to lie. Like it got really exciting towards the end. But Kevis is a witch and her coven also was very deeply saddened, of course, by her passing. And her best friend, Doris, who is played by I've already mentioned her before. Sorry, I'm just like losing track of things. Celine Buckens. She somehow kind of becomes, I won't say attracted to Guy necessarily, but she definitely pays attention to him and kind of tails him and ends up coming out in his favor because she does save him a couple of times when Guy has found himself in a sticky situation. And when he reveals to her about like the 752, she's like, "Yeah, I've heard about this. It's a myth, blah, 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 blah. You can't trust the Talamasca, this and that, what have you." Um, at any point, Frank, when we're meeting Doris and she says all the things that she has to say, did you ever get like a suspicious feeling about her, or did you ever feel like she was genuine in all that she was saying?
Man, and these espionage secret order shows, I don't trust anybody. I barely trust the main character. Like I don't.
Fair.
Everybody's distrustful to me. Especially beings of the supernatural flavor. I don't trust anybody. I don't trust the Talamasca. Like I thought everybody had their own ulterior motives. Whether it was her trying to unveil information or get information from Talamasca, or her trying to turn on somebody. I didn't know what she. I mean, I knew she was a witch, but I just didn't have any trust towards her. I really. It shows like this. I don't trust anything but animals. It shows like this. Like if it's an animal, I trust animal. Like animals. Like, but as far as humans and like when it comes to shows like this, everybody has a turn motive about getting something for them. It's all
Yes.
cynical at this point. So no, I thought she was bad news as well. I didn't
Okay.
I didn't trust her. No.
So, and I agree because let me give give you a visual with the crime scene that was Kevis, who again was being tailed by, I think he was like a hired someone or other from like Poland, who like he's a tracker of some kind, and he was set out, I think, by Jasper to again retrieve the 752, which at this point is believed to be a book. And when we meet Kevis for the first time, she's carrying around a backpack. She has like a really large, like leather bound type book that we briefly see. And upon the crime scene, that book is missing because that hired assassin, couldn't think of the word, assassin, that hired assassin who was there to kill her ends up getting killed himself by who we don't know at this point. But he points to the backpack to, to Guy and says, book, and then dies, right? As you do. But Guy like flees the crime scene because that's what he did. The book is missing, and now it's kind of like, oh, okay, we're going to find this book. Jasper believes that it's now at a hotel that is owned by vampires. That goes sideways really, really quickly. We have those revenants, whatever Jasper's vampires are called, have to take out like all the vampires that are in that hotel. And that's the focus of this whole season, is to locate this 752, which once again, it's a collection, it's an artifact or a collection of all the history that the Talamasca has consumed, right? And everyone wants it for different reasons. But we find out eventually that the book is not 752 at all, right? Because Doris had told Guy, the book that you're speaking on, that was Kevis, is just like a scrapbook, like, photos, things that meant something to her, that actually ends up being true, which I was very surprised in this whole scenario, because it's kind of like, you think it's oh no, it's raining over here now. Sorry, squirrel. But you like what Frank is saying, you tend to not want to believe anything anyone says, because this is such a spy show, right? Everyone's like, watch this hand while this other hand does something else. But I was genuinely surprised that the book that was Kevis actually was a scrapbook.
Now, I will say this though, I never did I think for 1 second that the 752 was just one book. Like, if you're talking about the history of the Talamasca, the history of events being recorded, damn near 1,000 years worth of evidence and information, I doubt that one book can fit all of that. Like, I thought it was maybe a key to a library. That's why I thought it was like a key or some type of amulet that opened up something that was bigger. That's what I thought. Like, I never, first thing I thought was a book. It's impossible to put all that information into one book, in my opinion.
No, that's fair, because when they kept referring to the 752, I actually thought it was the USB drive that the Soledad, who was the Talamasca agent that gets killed in the very beginning of the show, I thought that was the 752, because that eventually was discovered by police, London police, who are investigating all these deaths, right? I thought, oh, surely that has to be what the 752 is, because we live in a day and age where you could have a USB or an external hard drive, and it's got a ton of storage, right? You scan a lot of documents and whatever, you can fit a good amount of information onto those sort of devices, right? And especially when the police officers are, I guess, that's not the right word, but you see the screen and you see like different characters, and it's not in English, it's not making any sense. I'm like, oh, surely this is 752. It's just now in police hands. That also ended up not being the 752. That actually just revealed the true identity of Olive, who was kind of like going on and saying, oh, I'm an MI5 or MI6 agent, when she really wasn't, right? It was just an alias. But she ended up also working for Jasper, right? She is a Talamasca agent, who, by the way, is also a witch, I believe. Is she a witch? Did we get that confirmed, Frank?
Oh, I totally missed that. She is.
Oh,
I
I
didn't
thought
get
you
that.
said she was. Okay, maybe my bad. Maybe she isn't. Maybe she's just, not special. She's just human. Um, but she, who is Guy's handler, who works for Helen, she's been working for Jasper. Why? Did we get a reason as to why she is working both sides?
No, we never did, unless
Yeah.
Jasper had something on her, or unless she saw Jasper's true nature and what he's capable of, and she got scared and flipped.
Mm,
And we never found out why she was working with Jasper, and because Helen damn sure didn't know. So
yes.
whatever
That
was
that
going on, she had the New York mother house totally fooled. Or unless somebody in the New York mother house knew, and Helen was just unbeknown. It was unbeknownst to Helen.
yeah.
But no, I hope we get that information, like how Jasper flipped her. I mean, that'd be nice to know.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of like cliffhanger type situations for characters, and of course there's the plot itself, right? The storyline. But that surprised me. And that was what was really interesting towards the end of the show, is that there were a lot of surprises that, at this day and age, I feel I've seen it all, I've read it all. There's nothing that doesn't surprise me anymore. But this actually surprised me, in the sense of how the stories kind of all blend together in one way or another, right? Maybe with the exception of, no, no, even Jasper too. I'll get to that in a moment. But I lost my train of thought. Sorry. But with everyone trying to get the 752, like I said, I thought it was actually going to be that book that Kevis had. Then it's like, okay, well, maybe it's actually the USB drive. And it wasn't as well. It's like, well, what the hell is the 752? And when we get to the last two episodes of this season, we learned that Doris really knows her stuff. And there's a reason for it, because we also, with Helen, we're getting all the flashbacks about like her sister. She's investigating. She's trying to talk to the doctors of this Talamasca institution to get information about what happened to her sister. And she's being silenced, but doctors are dying in front of her, because they're about to really reveal the big truth of it all and what happened to her sister. And then you just have to wonder, who's pulling these strings? Who is ultimately pulling these strings? And then you see what happened in 1985, where a vampire is brought into the Amsterdam mother house, who meets Hauser, who I guess is like the head of the Amsterdam mother house, and says, you murdered your wife, you murdered, like, I guess, her lover or something like that, and that's just not how things are done here, but I'm going to give you a chance for redemption. And he Hauser brings in this vampire into like a surgical room, and you see, a young woman whose face is covered, her body's covered, but her neck is bare. And Hauser is telling this vampire, make her into a vampire. And it's like, that's not how they do things, right? And so the vampire's conflicted. He's like, this is not our way of life, blah, blah, blah. But he does it, right? And it reinforces the question of, what does the Talamasca have on these supernatural beings that is so overpowering? Because the vampire could just take you out in a hot second, right? But why not? Why not?
My only guess, and I'm far fetching, because we know in a lot of like vampire folklore, in a lot of different iterations, the weaknesses are highlighted in different iterations of vampires. Now, unless the Talamasca, and maybe it's in the 752, maybe there is like another defined weakness that the Talamasca has found out of the vampire and have now used this against the vampire to keep them in control. I mean, there has to be something to where there has to be some type of like advantage that the humans have Because
Mhm.
when I watch these other vampire shows, humans don't have a chance. They get wiped out in a second. Like it's
Hi,
crazy.
sinners.
Yeah, like it's crazy. Like they get even in Rice's season one of Interview with the Vampire, when Louis gets mad, and Louis was a fledgling, and when he
Yeah.
gets mad, he is wiping motherfuckers out left and right. You know,
Yeah.
from the alderman to a poor vacuum cleaner seller on the street. Like he is wiping them out. Like,
Mhm.
and he's a fledgling. So there has to be something to the effect that Talamasca has found that they can use as a vampire to keep them in check, whether it's a weakness or whether it's something tangible that the
Mhm.
vampire community wants or desires that they keep them at bay with. Because
Mhm.
I'm watching that scene of the vampire being brought into this white room, and I'm thinking to myself, oh, man, just kill him, just snap his neck, suck him dry, and walk up out of there. But there's something keeping him there, and I don't know. I don't know. I mean, the Time Master has been around for a long time. Maybe there's a pact. Maybe there's a pact that's put in place to where
I have no
vampires
idea.
can't hurt Talamasca. I don't know, but it's whatever it is. It needs to be unveiled because you if this show does become a multi-season thing, then you need to explain why these supernatural beings are so scared of these humans. You have to explain that because you can't keep having scenes where humans are bargaining with vampires and the vampires are like they're at the beck and mercy of the human. Like that has to be explained.
Yeah. No, absolutely, for sure. Because in a very strange turn of events, right? I don't remember the details precisely. Sorry, y'all. But Escape here is bringing it up. She says, "Remember how Jasper killed the cop, and in seconds he was rolled up in a rug and shipped off? Like, who does that? Like, how? How? Who does that? How does that
Yeah.
happen? It's just crazy. And this is the other crazy side of things.
Shout out to Tracy, by the
Hauser.
way. That's my girl Tracy who's logging in. Shout out to
Oh,
her.
what's up,
Go
Tracy?
ahead.
Thank you so much for being here. We appreciate you. I do recall you being with us during the interview with the Vampire Pod. So thank you once again for taking time to join us. We love your chats. Thank you so much. Um, the question is too is with Hauser, who's over the Amsterdam mother house. He's been aware of Jasper's doings, right? Taking over the London mother house, creating these hybrid vampires, and just wreaking havoc, and he's allowed it until I guess it no longer served Hauser. So then you're bringing another element, another person into this whole story of what is your motive? What are you trying to do either to the Talamasca or within the Talamasca? What is your purpose? What is your motive? By the way, he was played by the same guy who played Gior Mormont, Lord Commander.
He's aged well.
He has
He
aged
looks
well.
good. That's 10 years
Looks
ago.
great.
Yeah.
He looks great. Yeah, I love him. I love his speech pattern, his cadence, like the low kind of voice, because it makes it for very like mysterious, but also very like dangerous at the same time. It's like don't fuck with me. Like I'm very posh and like just go sort of situation. It's great. So lovely to see him once again. But he's definitely pulling some strings and he's aware of all the things that are happening and he's allowing certain events to transpire until it no longer serves a purpose, right? So eventually Jasper, and this is a situation that Tracy has brought up about how Jasper kills that cop or whatever, and then he literally is rolled up into a rug and hauled off into a white van posing as a carpet cleaning service, and is ultimately taken to, I guess it's Amsterdam, where he confronts Hauser, and he's kind of got like this Hannibal Lecter sort of mask on him, or almost like Man in the Iron Mask, sort of like he's chained up. It's like, dude, you are a fucking vampire. How can you not overpower this? Like, unless it's
Silver,
uh
maybe.
silver or
Yeah.
yeah, okay. Well, but that would like burn his skin, wouldn't it?
Yeah,
I don't
that's
know.
true too.
I'm not sure. But But the fact that he is brought forward to Hauser, who basically says, yeah, I know what you're doing. That was a no-no. But here, let's go into the same surgical room that I took the other vampire in to make an immortal. I want you to do the same. And it's like, Hauser, the fuck are you doing? Like, that just, again, it threw in another element into the story of what bigger event is going to transpire in the
And there was
coming.
bodies in there. There was dozens of bodies in that room.
I counted, I think, like 14.
Was it 14?
I think
Okay.
it was either 7 or 8 on each side. So we're looking at like 14, 16. And for Jasper, who again wanted the 752 for whatever reasons to take down the Talamasca, I guess because it was a Talamasca agent who outed his coven leader that ratted out the one who was drinking chicken blood, right? He wanted revenge, but he also mentioned that there weren't enough vampires in the world. And so this is kind of like serving that purpose of let's create more vampires, right? Crazy to me, right? But going back to other stories, right? Guy is still he's in this. He's absolutely in this, right? His life is saved a couple of times by Doris, and Helen has tried to help him because she finally was like very open to a degree about why she's doing what she's doing. She's trying to locate her sister, right? Her sister that she was separated from. We see the intelligence that her sister possesses of recalling facts that she saw 2 days prior. How many steps did it take for you to walk from the platform to the train? And she just recalls information without missing a beat, which was very impressive, right? And for Talamasca, they're training elite spies, if you will, and you have to be able to have those abilities. Helen is able to block Guy from reading her mind and tail people without being seen, right? So there's qualities that these sisters possess, but it seems like the sister possessed something a little bit more. Um, it's later revealed that the Talamasca took the sister to further her training. And I don't remember exactly. Maybe Tracy here in the chat, you can probably elaborate on this if I'm forgetting details. The sister ran away, or she was put on a mission and never came back, or what was the deal with her parting ways with the Talamasca? Because I don't remember that information specifically, if that was clearly stated. But we learn, Frank, that Doris is actually Helen's sister. Talk about a plot twist. I mean, did you see that coming at all?
No, I did not, because they look nothing fucking alike. And it's like one looks vastly older than the other. We found out why, but like I did not see that coming at all. At all.
Absolutely. That was mind-boggling. So it turns out not only is Doris Helen's sister. By the way, that's not either one of their real names, right? They had different names that they went by. Doris,
I think Fiona was Helen's name. Fiona, and then I can't remember Doris's name.
it doesn't matter. We're going to refer to them as Helen and Doris. but not only is Doris Helen's sister, Doris was that young woman in the 80s who was on that surgical table, face covered, body covered, neck exposed, and was made into a vampire. Why? Because dun dun dun, she is the 752. She is the Talamasca's walking library.
So my question is, did a bitch read every fucking book in the library? Like, how did she retain all of that information?
Yes, because there was like the flashbacks to where she was like in the library reading all the books and just retaining all of that information.
But how many years did that take? Because you're talking about 1,000 years worth of history and documented history of like supernatural stuff and like just history in general. Like you're talking about since 712 AD, like that's a lot of information to retain. Like did it take a year, a decade, 15 years? Like we're talking about a lot of books. I'm sure there was scrolls in there that was not readable. That took forensics to like, try to transcribe what it said. Like we're talking about probably years of transcribing for that young girl.
And maybe it's because she possesses like that photographic memory, right? Where she just sees something and then retains it. It's not so much that she isn't absorbing the information word for word, but like that she can look at something and then look away and recall it just like that, right? It's impressive because that ability does exist in a lot of people, right? That's why counting cards is illegal in Las Vegas, people, because of people who possess that memory of seeing what cards were placed and how to play. Anyway, that's beside the point. But Doris possesses that quality that Talamasca was looking for in the training, in the testing at that school that Helen did not possess, and thus that's what separated them. Helen went to live with the family, and then her sister went to further her training with Talamasca. But the fact that Talamasca made this young woman, because I think when they were girls, it was maybe, let's say in the 60s, I want to say maybe. So they're probably, let's say 10, because they're twins. They're identical twins. This is an important detail. They're identical twins, separated, I think, in the 60s. Fast forward to 1985, where Doris is ultimately turning into a vampire. She's got to be like in her late 20s, pushing early 30s, I want to say, and is therefore forever stuck in that age, that body, and what have you. But for the Talamasca to make her immortal, so that she forever possesses the knowledge from that Talamasca library that they burnt down. Talamasca burnt down that library. Like, and why? I don't remember this detail. I don't remember why. Frank, thoughts on all this? For Talamasca to do this to someone they raised, they trained, made her immortal.
Yeah, I think Hausman is I think he's running rogue on this. I think Hausman put the order in to burn that library down in the 60s. Because Hausman was pretty in 85 when he made that vampire bite Doris and to turn her to a vampire. I think Hausman's running rogue. I don't think it was a collective decision from Talamasca, from the, I don't know, it was a high table or
not throwing in John Wick.
Yeah, board of trustees. I don't know if there's some type of like governor, governor's board or whatever that came to the decision to say, you know what, let's burn down 1,000 years of information, put it into a little girl. I think Hausman went rogue on this, and I think selfishly he wanted to retain his information for himself, and I think he wanted an upper hand on anybody in the Talamasca and outside the Talamasca. I think that's what it is. I think that mother house, that Amsterdam mother house, is running on its own accord, and I think Hausman is the main culprit, because you see nobody else, like, as far as like, you don't see anybody else operating in that fashion outside of like the doctor who left, who got shot, and the lady, the maid that shot the doctor. Like, it doesn't look like not a lot of people know about what happened to the library, and they know what the 752 is, because even as powerful as Jasper is, and like him taking over the London mother house, and like him having all these resources, he didn't know. I feel like all these mother houses are running on their own accord. Yeah, they have like a mantra they follow. They have like orders that they follow, but I think all of them run on their own accord. I think Hausman's no different. I think Hausman, I think he wants all the power to himself. I think he wants every single advantage. I don't think Hausman comes across as somebody who doesn't want to get bested by anybody, and so I want to keep the house to myself. If this is Vegas, I'm the dealer. I got the chips. I ain't controlling the narrative.
Yeah.
That's how I look at Houseman. It'll be nice to see, you know, Houseman in the 60s and 70s and like seeing how he got to this power. I'm
Mm.
sure he killed the right people. I'm sure he got stuff on the. I'm sure he has dirt on the right people to keep
Yeah.
him in the level that he's at. I love it. He's he's probably my favorite characters so far because I like those like conniving, do whatever it takes. I'm gonna find the upper hand in any form of fashion type of character. That Baelish type of character. I love those characters.
Oh.
I think he's that guy, and I can't wait to find out more because, dude, you have a vampire like Jasper in his face, and he's bewildered. He doesn't know what's going on. He looks lost. Jasper looked like a powerful being for the better part of 6 episodes, and in that 3-minute scene with Houseman, he looked like a little boy. He looked lost. He looked scared. He looked confused. Everything that a human being typically looks like right up to the point they get eaten by a vampire. That's how Jasper looked like. And to me, that scene really showed the power and influence that Houseman has. And I can't wait to find out more about him.
Full disclaimer: Frank's into toxicity. Let's just be honest.
Easily.
Yeah, call a spade. That's Frank. No, I think you make excellent points. Yeah. And again, for the storytelling to be the way that it was, and you have to wait until like the last 2 episodes to really get this bit of information coming out of left field, right? With the Doris reveal not only being a vampire, because I think that was revealed first, the fact that it was revealed afterwards that she's Helen's sister. And then we find out that going back to that crime scene for Kevis and that assassin, that hired assassin, there was evidence found of another person being there, and the police believe that it's Helen. Now, this is the reason why I mentioned that Helen and Doris are identical twins, because identical twins share the same DNA. It was not Helen who was at the crime scene, because at the time of the crime, she was in New York. It was Doris who was at the crime scene because she had followed, I guess, Kevis or maybe the assassin, or she just somehow right place, right time. But she killed the assassin after she saw that Kevis had been murdered. So it explains why things transpired the way that they did. And she was the one who retrieved the book that belonged to Kevis from the crime scene. And that's why she currently possesses it. And it made Guy believe for the longest that she was in possession of the 752. And she's like, no, I am the 752, which is great because the fact that she tried to tell Guy off in the beginning, you can't trust the Talamasca. They're going to use you. You're going to get killed. And the 752 is a myth. Like, throw him off the scent, obviously, right? You know, because who would have ever guessed and believed that the 752 was a person? And Tracy here, she mentioned earlier, she goes, it was like that scene in Rush Hour. And I asked her to clarify, and she said the bald-headed chick that had the scroll on her head that tattooed. And I'm like, oh, Genevieve. Yes, I remember. She was oh God, I used to remember what it was called, Shiloren, something like that. It was just the name of all the, I guess, of all the cartel. I say cartel, but you know what I'm trying to say. Like all the mob bosses or whatever who were in power. So anyway, yes, great explanation. So this show was crazy in the sense of the big plot twist. Did not see that coming. Helen actually not throws a scent, but she distracts the Talamasca who are onto her because they see that she's also been, going rogue, doing her own thing. She's been not picked up, but the police are onto her. She sacrifices herself to being caught instead of Guy and Doris being followed and whatnot. They make the great escape. She's taken into police custody by the detective who has been working this case throughout the whole time. And I am led to believe, Frank, and I want to get your opinion about this. I'm led to believe that maybe Helen and this detective are going to kind of work in tandem to kind of get down to the bigger picture of things. How do you think that's going to work out?
Yeah, I agree. I mean, because it didn't look good for Helen because her DNA, and again, that's I mean, I don't know much about DNA, but like twins have different DNA structures, right? Just because you're twins doesn't mean you have the exact same.
Identical. Identical twins do.
They do.
They do.
Okay, all right. I wasn't corrected then, but I think they're gonna work together only because the information that the detective found, as far as Helen boarding her plane, leaving New York, coming to the UK, and
Mhm.
the murder scene, how the murder had already been conducted while Helen was
Yep.
still in New York. It just didn't add up.
Right.
So I think that's gonna raise questions. I think that's gonna have her, the detective be like, you know what, let's work together because this is somebody's covering up something and it just doesn't
Mhm.
make sense. Let's work together. And then on top of that, throughout this whole season, the detective kept getting bested by MI5 and like people up above her. So I think she just felt like insignificant. And I think
Mhm.
she's tired of being stepped on and
Yeah.
and getting strong armed by, I mean,
Mhm.
even though MI5 was not real, it wasn't an actual MI5 agent. It was,
Mhm.
Olive,
Yeah.
acting
Right.
as one. But like, I think
Right.
her getting constantly stepped on throughout the season is going to motivate her to like try to unveil the truth and make her mark
Mhm.
in this case and trying to help Helen in the process too. So, um, is it altruism? Probably not. Is it altruistic? Probably not. But I think for the detective, her trying to make a name for herself and unveil the truth, why simultaneously helping clear Helen's name, I think is going to create a nice duo for season 2.
Is the Talamasca at risk being exposed, do you think? Because this is still supposed to be a secret order, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Working in conjunction with the London police, do you think Helen is going to try to recruit the detective to be part of Talamasca or keep her at the London police level and try to kind of continue throwing people off the scent?
I can make the argument that might be Helen's out of like trying
Mm.
to transition out of the Talamasca because she's been operating on her own on accord for the better part of this season. And
Mhm.
then once she finds out the truth about her sister and like how she came about, she's gonna be like, fuck Talamasca. I mean, you kind of saw clues of her saying fuck the Talamasca low key anyways, like kind of like trying to find out about her sister because like you work for a company that pretty much took your sister away from you and covered up the
Mhm.
truth. So holistically, how can you truly trust the the mantra of this organization that you worked for all these years? And mind you, these girls they didn't volunteer. they were they were taken away and like put into this Talamasca camp and like,
This is true.
it wasn't by their choice. So this could be the tipping point of her transitioning out of Talamasca. And if once she found out the truth about what they did to Doris, she's gonna be even more pissed and more
Mhm.
motivated to leave Talamasca. And then now that
Mhm.
I mean, it's not her blood, but like there's blood in the murder scene. Do you think Talamasca is gonna come out of the way to come save her? No, they're gonna consider her a burnt agent. She's
Yeah.
been burned, and let's move on.
Yeah.
Let's go find me another agent.
Yeah.
So no,
Everyone's
I think
expendable.
yeah, and that's what any government organization. Once it's all about like protecting the name and preserving the government's name and their mission. The mission
Mhm.
always is ahead of the person,
This
and
is
I
true.
and I think and no matter what the iteration is, government, CIA, whatever, you know. But I think Helen's gonna find a way out, and this is a big reason you was lied to for the better part of your whole life. So
This is true. This is absolutely true. Great points. So we've covered about Helen and Jasper, but Guy and Doris have made it out of the UK, right? With Helen's assistance, she secured them new passports, uh, means to get out of the country because they knew that they were going to be followed by like Jasper and such. They needed an out package, right? And Doris, now partnered with Guy, I don't think it's clear where they're traveling, but Doris does tell Guy ultimately that she thinks she knows where his mother may be. And I would be inclined to believe her because of the fact that she is a walking, talking Talamasca database. And if his mother has been an agent of some kind, that she would keep, like, she would just kind of keep tabs on maybe where his mother was last seen, what the cover up, why the cover up, what does she do to offend the Talamasca so savagely that she's been on the run for since Guy was 9, right? I think they said for the last 16 years. So, which by the way, I failed to mention how Guy had a really rough childhood and this and that, what have you. It was theoretically Talamasca, with them not knowing, I guess by way of Helen or people, that Guy's life, schooling, career choice, whatever, was all laid out for him by the Talamasca, which is absolutely crazy to me. And he's like, "Well, my life has never been my life." And it's like, "Well, no, but it's been a pretty good life, right? I mean, you went to fucking NYU and passed the bar, got yourself, pretty cushy job, even though you never worked a day at it." But yeah, so Doris and Guy have teamed up. They're gonna go look for his mom, but they're not alone. Hausman has someone tailing them, and that's where we leave the Talamasca Secret Order season 1. Crazy ending. I think that was very well done. I know there's a lot of other little things that we didn't, touch on, but overall, Frank, what did you take away from this season, and what are you hoping to see in season 2?
Keep it real short. I took away that the Talamasca is very powerful. They're well feared in this community. Everybody has a bone to pick with the Talamasca in some form or fashion. They have a bone to pick with them, but it seemed like no matter what, whether it's Jasper, whether it's Guy, nobody has the tools to bring them down as far as the Talamasca, and they seem unbeatable. They seem like they're just unstoppable force. So what I took from it is that no matter what you do, it's like the Talamasca is like on some Thanos shit. They're inevitable. They're just inevitable. Like they do what they want to do. They do what they want to do. They change the narrative, like to the point where they steer Guy's future as far as what he wanted to be when he grew up. Everything was steered. Like everything was was handled predetermined wise. So what I would love to see is coming season 2, I would like to see what Talamasca has on these supernatural beings, how the Talamasca was formed. It will be a great, and it might be a hit to where you get a Talamasca prequel series of how they got formed. But like, I would love to see how they got formed, and I would love to see what they have on the witches, the vampires, all of that. So that's why I'm looking forward to seeing moving forward. Is if they do get outed, how do they get outed, and is it's going to be one of those things where do you have to get together with do the vampires have to work with the witches, and the witches have to work with the vampires and werewolves? Does it become a unity thing where all these different supernatural aspects who have been sworn enemies for millennia come together like on some Avengers shit to bring down Talamasca? So the Talamasca is viewed as in season two of Interview with the Vampire, they're viewed as this organization who are trying to protect, serve, and observe. But in this iteration, in this season, it's not so fast, my friend. We are an agency that we run things on our accord, and we handle the narrative. So the Roman Empire was a unbeatable empire for generations, and they came down. Is Guy? Is he the stone that that is casted that makes the whole empire of Talamasca get brought down? We shall see.
Mm. Bars. I mentioned earlier how I was going to liken the Talamasca to that of Shield, where Shield, their mission was to, and correct me if I'm wrong, Frank, because I know you will, basically to protect Earth from all sorts of threats, right? And if that meant that they had to create the super soldier, that is Captain America, to help, shield the Earth, right? That's what they were going to do. And then sometimes they go about things the wrong way, right? Where, as we saw it unfold in the first Avengers movie, where Shield was like building weapons because of forces like Thor who threatened the Earth, right? And so, yes, you could have a code, you can have a mission, but then there are those few who take it upon themselves to do things their own way, right? And then the organization as a whole will begin to fall apart because of those few people and those choices that they make, right? So that's just kind of how I view the Talamasca. I can probably foresee their downfall, much like how Shield ultimately came down, even though that wasn't like completely intentional. But the fact that there was Hydra, obviously, who infiltrated Shield and caused all this havoc and whatnot. That's the huge difference between the two organizations. But I like what Tracy had to say here. She says the Talamasca is powerful in a silent way. The vampires are powerful in a dramatic way, and that's what scares me about the Talamasca. They are strange. Listen, I agree. I just hope that we get some questions answered. Of course, repeating what Frank said, what is it that Talamasca has on all these supernatural beings that make them so superior over them, to where you have a fucking vampire who works with you, like, period. And I can't wait to see what's going to happen with like Jasper and Houseman partnership. These other vampires are going to be created. If Doris and Helen will ever be reunited once again, if any amount of information will be extracted out of Doris as the 752. Is Guy obviously going to ever be reunited with his mother? What crimes did she commit within the Talamasca that got her on the run? I'm looking forward to it. I think it was really great storytelling. I just am not waiting for the 2 years that it's probably going to take in order to get the next season. But in the meantime, Frank, we are going to get season 3 of Interview with a Vampire, but by the name of The Vampire Lestat. Like, how excited are you for this upcoming season?
My assignment got renewed this afternoon. I never actually saw the trailer until today when you brought it up, and I'm excited. Like, the acting chops of Sam Reed is elite. Like, I've known this for the better part of 4 years now with this guy. Just that 3-minute trailer, he's taken to another level with his acting bag, and to get like a full length season of like just featuring him, because we didn't really get much of him in season 2, like outside of like bits and pieces here in episode, I think 8, when he shows back up in Paris. But other than that, man, to get a full season of this guy and what he can do with a script, I'm excited. I can't wait.
Oof. Yeah, that trailer, y'all, if you haven't had the opportunity to go watch the full trailer for The Vampire Lestat, go watch it. It's so worth it. I'm so excited for it. I was enjoying you watching the trailer earlier today, Frank, because the chemistry between Sam Reed and Jacob Anderson is just so good. I mean, talk about power right there. It's just so damn good. And the fact that we've mentioned this several times before, Sam Reed actually being a huge Anne Rice fan prior to being cast as Lestat just makes the performance and his character so much more enticing. And I love it. I'm here for it. I cannot wait for it either. So be sure, y'all, to subscribe to our YouTube channel, because we will be coming back here to talk about all things Vampire Lestat for sure. Tracy, girl, I expect you to be here as well in the chat. Bring friends. All right, Frank. Any last words on Talamasca's Secret Order?
Nah, man. I mean, great job. I mean, a lot of these actors are new to me. So great job to a lot of those new castmates. The lady that played Olive, guy who plays Guy,
Mhm.
Doris. They all did a great job in this series. I don't. I mean, I don't know. I didn't look at the IMDb pages. I don't know what other work they've done, but they did a great job. Especially the growing of the characters as the season went on.
Mhm.
I thought the writing was really, really good.
Mhm.
It's sort of slow, but I get it. With shows like that, you gotta build pillars, right, to like a
Yep,
foundation before a story takes off. And I thought episode 5 and 6 was a great payoff to a 6 episode season. So great job.
for sure. Only criticism, I wish they had more episodes because, like Frank said to me earlier, he wanted more. So they did the damn job with leaving us with the cliffhanger, wanting more. We're just sadly going to have to wait. I'm thinking for another 2 years until we get the next season. But until then, be sure to, once again, shameless plug-in, subscribe to our YouTube channel, check out all of our other content, including Interview with a Vampire on here. Not sure, Frank. Should we check out Mayfair Witches and come back here and do a pod on that because it's also available on Netflix now, which is good for users who may not have AMC or AMC Plus.
I mean, I'm down. I'm down. It's one season, right?
I think there's actually two.
I mean, hey, look, we got number time until Interview with the Vampire season 3 next year. So yeah, I'm down. I'm down to do a binge watch. I mean, we got a break coming up pretty soon for a couple weeks,
We
so
do. We do. Bet.
we can do that.
Bet. We'll make it happen, y'all. But again, subscribe. Also hit that notification bell that we know the next time we go live here on YouTube. And we invite you, of course, to join our live chat. We have so much fun engaging with y'all, answering your questions, taking your comments, exactly like what Tracy did here today. Thank you so much for joining us. We really appreciate it. And also, don't forget to check out all of our social media. The links are in the description box down below. And also, don't forget to check out our audio podcast available to you on Spotify and all other podcast platforms that I can't think off the top of my head right now. For Frank, I'm Brittany. Thank you so much for taking the time out of your day to join us to talk about the Talamasca, and we will see you next time. Have a great night.